Guys, it's your girl Nurse Coach Show. I'm back again for another video. This time it's going to be a little bit different video. In my previous videos, I spoke about how I am a nurse coach, a registered nurse, but I'm also a nurse coach that focuses on the whole person and not just their chronic illnesses. So I also focus mind, body, spirit. I take a holistic approach, and sometimes some of my topics will be focused around the subconscious mind, around mental health, around becoming the best version of yourself through healing the limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. So, for this video here, I would like to go over and talk about toxic relationships because they have such a profound and lasting impact on your emotional, mental, and physical well being. And so it is so important for you to recognize the signs of toxicity, not just in other people, but also within yourself. Because one thing that we all have in common is that we are the creators of our reality. So if we are coming from a negative standpoint in life, 9 times out of 10, we're going to only attract negativity toward us. And even when even when something good comes our way or something positive happens in our lives, we still find a reason to be negative behind it. And that is because we are rooted in that negativity loop and don't even realize that we are coming from that negative place because that's all we can see. Our vision is just based on the level at which it is at. So if you are someone who is rooted in toxicity, as I once was, um, then toxicity surrounded me. I attracted what I put out. You attract what you are subconsciously. And so it is so important to recognize what toxicity is and how it can show up in your life and ways to start combating that toxicity so that you can begin to change the dynamic of your situation. For myself, as I told you in previous videos, I will be giving you insights into my own personal life. But excuse me, my own personal life that included a lot of toxicity. I was literally rooted in toxicity. My framework, my blueprint was created from toxic behaviors, traits, and ideals. And that was because the first 7 years of your life is the most crucial years because that is when you are learning so much about who you are eventually going to become. This is where your ingredients are being placed for your foundation to be made, which builds your personality, your characteristics, and all of those things that make you you. All of those things are usually created in those first 7, 8 years of your life. So for me, I grew up in an extremely toxic household. There was a lot of chaos, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of fighting, a lot of disloyal connections. Like I grew up in a family. I have two older brothers, two older sisters. Um, in the beginning of my life, I did have two parents, but my father ended up passing away when I was 9. So then my mom became a single parent of me because my siblings are much older than me. But not to make this about my mother, but she is the blueprint from which I went off of and where I gained a lot of insight as to who I was supposed to be in my life. And because I experienced such emotional, mental, physical abuse growing up, it shaped my viewpoint toward negativity and toxicity. So I would carry myself in these very toxic ways without realizing that I was literally living in toxicity, but that was all I could see because that's where my vision was geared toward. That's all I knew. And this is not to make anybody good, bad, or whatever. I look at this as an opportunity for growth. I look at this as an opportunity to become a better version of yourself because that is what we should be all aiming for is to become better than we were the day before. And the best way to do that is to learn as much as you can, not only about how to be a good person, but how learn as much as you possibly can about who you are on a core level. And that has been one of the number one things that I have recognized in not only myself, but friends, family, clients, patients that I've interacted with is that because people usually don't really know who they are outside of the titles of life, like mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, teacher, nurse, all of those different titles, those are not who you are. Those are just labels that indicate what you do as a role, but it does not say who you are on a core level as an individual, as a person. And and this is not anyone's fault per se, because usually we are brought into this world by parents who may not be 100% healthy mentally, who may not have the healthy boundaries or the healthy ideals of how to become a healthy individual and raise healthy individuals. And it is, again, I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but this is the reality of what happens in everyday life. And it does not matter what color you are, how much money you have, any of those things. The only thing that matters is the mental function and vision of the person who is, or the people who are responsible for you in the beginning portions of your life, who help build your character and your personality. And so, as a result of that, I grew up very in a very toxic environment. And not only did I grow up in a toxic environment, it created in me um, views of myself that were not true. It created limiting beliefs within myself. It made me lack confidence. All of these toxic things, because all of the name calling, all of the abuse, and those things are extremely toxic traits. And then you pull them in as your own and make them a part of who you become, even though that is not who you are sincerely supposed to be. And so, until you recognize that, can you start to change? First comes with anything in life, be it uh, anything in your life that you wish to change. The first step is the acknowledgement of the thing that needs to be changed, right? So, I recognized within myself, because I got to a place where I didn't like myself anymore. And it made perfect sense because I was walking someone else's story over my own. And so within that, I was taught strictly how to be toxic. I was rude, I was disrespectful toward myself and others. If they didn't do what I wanted them to do, I would cut people off. I was very short tempered. I would use manipulation tactics to try to get my way. I would um, lack emotional maturity. So I was very ego driven, which is another toxic trait, where I was easily triggered. I was easily angered. I was basically easily manipulated to step outside of a boundary that I should have created, but I didn't know any better. And so, in this, I want to talk about how those toxic relationships impact us, what toxic, what a toxic trait is, and what it looks like, and how to free yourself from the bonds of toxicity, and how to create in yourself feelings of worthiness, feelings of abundance within yourself, where you are to a place where you are able to fill your own cup and not have to rely on any sources outside of you to have your cup filled, because you're already fulfilled and you did the fulfilling yourself. And I also will discuss boundaries and having solid consequences to accompany those boundaries. So for me, one of my toxic traits was having something I like to call pseudo boundaries or mock boundaries. And they're mock or pseudo boundaries because I will claim that this is a boundary with X, Y, and Z as as a consequence to breaking that boundary. But as soon as that boundary was broken, so was my um consequence. Meaning I never held anybody accountable for the things that they did, but I tried to manipulate people into doing what I wanted them to do. Um, I guess as a form of personal protection, or I'm not sure, but whatever it was extremely toxic and it did not get me the outcome that I was looking for because it was based on manipulation. And not only was it based on manipulation, but it also taught the other person that the words that I was saying had no value. So that is something to keep in mind. When you tell someone something, and you don't stand on it, eventually your word no longer becomes your bond. No longer will people begin to listen to what you have to say or believe what you have to say. You will become unreliable because your words and your actions do not meet. And that within itself is another toxic trait. There is a ton of toxic behaviors, and I am actually working on my very first not on my very first book. It's called Heal, Heal Sis, Getting Over, Through, and Past Those Toxic Relationships. I've been working on this book forever. And I have not been very consistent in getting it done because my hands are all over the place trying to get things up and running, because, and I'm kind of jumping around here and I apologize, but I think it's because I feel like I had given so much away already in the beginning parts of my life that it caused me to feel as if I had fallen behind on things that I wanted and needed, and it um, was expected to do. And I say expected because I do believe that this is a part of my purpose for being here. And so I've been kind of dragging my feet with getting that book done and out, but I am going to try to hold myself to task and get it completed and published before the end of the year. But back to um back to what I was saying before I jumped off onto that. But within that book, I have a whole list of things that are toxic that we don't even recognize are toxic traits. And so I will point out some of the more evident ones, or the ones that I see being used most often by people, and they probably don't even recognize that their behavior is toxic. Excuse me. Um, One in particular is gaslighting, something we're experiencing right now with our political situation here in the United States. These people think that they can gaslight us into believing something that is absolutely not true. Another example of gaslighting could come from a toxic relationship with someone who is trying to convince you that what they are doing is actually what you're doing. So, for instance, my ex, we're still unfortunately married. That's another story for another day. But we've been separated for a very long time. But we are no longer together because he was a cheater. Now, my toxic trait in that relationship was I thought that I could change him. I was a codependent as hell. That is a toxic trait. He was toxic in the sense that he thought that he should be able to treat me or any woman, and for that matter, in any possible way, and they would still stick around him. So he would cheat and then try to flip the script and try to make it about me, or try to uh take one particular particular thing out of the conversation to flip the script and make it about me. And it could be something as stupid as um him going to the store and or excuse me, him telling me that he spent money on X, Y, and Z. But then when I question him about spending money on X, Y, and Z, he swear up and down that it was no, it was me that spent the money on X, Y, and Z. Or he could say, he could tell me something, and then when I would bring it up later, he would be like, "No, you said that. No, that was something you did." Or he would do, stay out past a reasonable time for a married man and try to flip the script on me by gaslighting me and be like, oh, well, you stayed out until X, Y, and Z on this day instead of addressing the issue at hand. Those are toxic behaviors and some forms of gaslighting, and they may not be the best examples. Right now, with the political climate, I think those are probably the best examples that I can come up with right now about gaslighting. But gaslighting within itself is a toxic trait. Someone trying to manipulate you into doing something that you don't want to do or that you've told them no about, but they come with a manipulation to try to change your mind or to try to convince you or to try to make you do something, that's toxic. Cutting someone off because you didn't like what they said or did, without any communication about why you cut them off, that is toxic. So, I mean, the list can go on and on and on what toxic traits are. And so, when we live like that, we never quite fully gather authentic relationships because all of them will be have been based on toxic bullshit. And so you'll always have ebbs and flows in those relationships where one minute you're talking, the next minute you have nothing to say to each other because you hate each other now. And never is there an apology, but the next thing you know, you're back communicating just to repeat the cycle all over again. Nothing ever gets solved. It's just confusion upon confusion upon confusion. Whereas a healed and healthy person knows that communication is key. Communication is the necessary to have a functioning, healthy adult relationship. And that does not matter if it is a romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, a familial relationship, or a work environment relationship. All of these relationships require whole, healthy individuals who are respectful of themselves as well as each other, who knows how to communicate, who can address issues without allowing their ego to take control, because being ego driven is another form of toxicity. If you can't control your behavior, you are toxic as hell. Even if you don't want to agree with me, you as an adult should be able to control yourself, even if the situation is not ideal. Now, of course, there are situations where you could potentially have your life be put in danger. That's something far-fetched and completely different. I don't mean that way. I'm talking about average everyday relationship with someone else, and not being able to communicate with them in a healthy manner that makes sense, in a healthy manner that upholds both you and that other individual's respect and dignity. Those are healthy, healed people. Now, how do you heal through past and beyond toxicity? The first step is acknowledging it. You have to find out what your toxic traits are. You have to list those things out, and then you have to figure out how do you reverse those toxic traits. With any type of healing, number one, it is not an overnight process. Number two, you have to be consistent and patient with yourself. You have to offer yourself grace. Number three, you have to make it a priority of in your life that you actually want to change. Now, when I say give yourself grace, you have to give yourself grace because when your subconscious is wired away, until it is rewired, you may slip and fall and go back into those old patterns all over again. And that is okay. You're a human being. Nobody is perfect. The key is acknowledging that and being accountable to those changes that you wish to enact in your life. And the best way to rewire is consistency. A minimum of 21 days is required to begin the rewiring process. You can do this through meditation, you can do this through affirmations, you can do this through journaling. There's a number of ways that you can begin to rewire your subconscious mind, but the key is consistency. Minimum 21 days of change. So once you've listed out your toxic traits and you recognize them for what they are, you want to try to figure out, number one, where did you pick up this trait? Is it something you picked up in childhood and that's all you've ever known? So that's what you've done your whole entire life? Or is this something you picked up because you were so lost from yourself that you were easily pulled into the behaviors of other people? So what that means is, say you are someone who is hangs around um, someone who is into drugs or something, and you don't do drugs, but because now you hang around them all the time, you decide that now you're going to try the drugs too. So that kind of thing is what I mean. And then you pick that habit up of being on drugs because allowed um, yourself to be steered toward a direction that was not meant for you, and that's because you didn't know who you were. Now, once you figured out what the traits are, possibly where they came from. Now is the fun part of starting to rewire them. First, you want to get the toxic trait. Like for instance, I'll do me. So I was a codependent person. I thought I was perfect. I thought that I had all the answers. I thought that I could fix everybody but myself because I didn't think I needed to be fixed. Well, the rewiring had to come in with me understanding who I was. I'm not perfect. I can't fix anybody else but myself. I can't change anybody except for myself. That part of the acknowledgement is what I needed so that my eyes can open up to realize that, wait a minute, you can't fix nobody but you. So now that I picked up on the idea that I can't fix anybody but myself, that's when I got the opportunity to step back and figure out where I picked up the idea that I was so perfect that I could change, do X, Y, and Z for someone else that I couldn't even do for myself. And that made me open my eyes and realize just how much I lacked confidence, self esteem, self worth, and all of it. And that is where I was able to begin the rewiring process of learning not just myself, but building my confidence, building my self worth, building my self esteem. And all of that came through me acknowledging the issue, finding out where it came from, and then doing the necessary work to start to change that dynamic or that pattern within my head. So, what I had to do for that situation was, when I would recognize myself going back into that codependent pattern and some of the things that I would say, because I wrote those things down in my codependency area of what the things that my characteristics that accompany that label of codependency. And once I was able to figure those things out, I got to chip away at each one individually to try to change that dynamic for me. So, for my self esteem, confidence, and self worth, it really was influential for me to um, do positive affirmations every day. I had to rewire that part because I felt so worthless and despondent within myself. But then I also took that time during that time to actually sit down with me in no interruptions for a length of time. Not a couple days, not a couple months, but it took a couple years for me to actually get to a place where I was confident enough to sit in front of this camera and do a video for you. So Um, Change doesn't happen overnight. And not only that, healing is a lifelong journey. I will be on the road to recovery for the rest of the days that I exist here on this earth. And so with those positive affirmations and looking at myself in the mirror and feeding positivity to myself by looking at myself in my eyes. I put a picture of the little girl, me, when I was probably about 6 years old as my screensaver on my telephone. So that every time I opened up my phone, I got to see the little girl who was damaged that got the messed up ingredients to create that foundation of low self-esteem, low self-worth, and low self-confidence. And I got to feed into her. I got to pour into her and give her what she was lacking so that I could give it to this adult version of me and not have to go look for it outside of me. And once I was able to do that, I was able to step back from thinking that I was perfect enough to change someone else, um, because I had to and realize that the only one that I could change was myself. So that's just some little bit of an example of what I mean by um, re rewiring your subconscious mind and creating new pathways to um, get you out of that stuck version of toxicity, that toxicity loop that you may be experiencing. And once you get out of that toxicity loop and your eyes begin to open differently because now you know who you are, you will begin to see your life change in drastic ways. You will start to see people start falling away because a lot of times the relationships we gain when we are in a toxic mindset are usually built on trauma bonds, which are bonds that are created off of each other's trauma. Once you heal your trauma, then and there's not then there's probably not going to be much left that makes you guys have a relationship of commonality. That you won't have anything in common anymore because you've healed your toxic traits that no longer identify with that person's toxic traits. Now, unless they change their toxicity too, then that relationship is 9 times out of 10 probably going to fall out of your life, and that's a good thing. Not everybody is meant to be in your life for a lifetime. Not everybody. Some people come as lessons. Some people come as lessons, some come as teachers. So not everybody you meet is meant to be there forever, and that's okay. So then once you heal completely and those toxic relationships begin to fall away, you will be notice that you are beginning to attract positive, healthy relationships into your life. And these positive, healthy relationships will be more fulfilling to your mind, body, and spirit. They will offer you better support without a price tag attached, which usually comes in toxic relationships. Toxic relationships are very expensive. If you haven't figured that out, you will once you begin to heal from your toxicity and start seeing things differently. It is extremely expensive. Anything that robs you of your happiness and peace is way too expensive. And that's what I mean by that. And so it is going to be important if you are interested at all in taking a new step in your life and you want to begin the process but don't know where to begin. Hit me up. Let's set up a free 30-minute discovery call. My information is in the link below, where my website, my company is Blossoming Souls Nurse Coaching, and we can come up with a blueprint for you to help you get to the space that you would like to be that is away from toxic toxicity so that you can begin to attract healthy relationships, healthy people, good experiences and opportunities into your life. And I tell you what, once I started the healing process and actually noticed the significant changes within myself, I was able to carry myself differently. I was able to offer a different aura about myself. My energy was different, my vibration was higher. Because, when you are in those toxic spaces, when I said they're expensive because not only do they rob you of your happiness and your peace, but they're very heavy. You carry a baggage set that is unbelievable. And until you start to unpack that, you don't even recognize just how much you've been breaking your back carrying baggage that you should have been let go of. You see what I'm saying? That's baggage that you should have been let go of. But time is it. You got time. As long as you got air in your lungs and your heart is beating, and you got this up here that's still functioning, even if it's wired improperly, you have time. You have a chance to change it for yourself and release some of that burden. Get rid of that baggage. As my girl Erica Badu said in her song Bag Lady, you gonna hurt your back dragging all them bags like that. Let that shit go. Let it go. You're worth it. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand is that you are worth it 100%. And anybody that tries to tell you different is toxic and need to get them out of your life. Anyway, excuse me, I curse. So if you find curse words offensive, I'm not even going to apologize because I'm a grown woman and this is my channel and I have every right to say what I want, when I want, how I want. Because I don't answer to anybody else but me. I'll respect you. Now I'm not going to curse at you. I'm not going to cuss you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to call you something belligerent, but I curse. I cuss, not curse. Because curse is putting a curse on someone. I cuss using bad words. You know, there's a difference. I do not cuss people. I do cuss them. So anyway, let me get off that little soapbox. But anyway, this video is getting kind of long. We're already 30 minutes in. But I just wanted to come in here and talk about toxic relationships and finding the space to heal past your toxicity so that you can get a better, fulfilling, happy, joyful journey here while existing on this planet. Let me tell you something. Life is too short. The trip from birth to death is not very far. It's not a long trip at all. And even if you are blessed with the opportunity to live to 100 and plus years old, birth to death is still a short trip in relation to the vastness of everything. Do you get what I'm saying? So I got a little winded here, but if you're interested in that discovery call, look at connect with me on my website below. I look forward to working with you. If you have not subscribed to the Healing Nurse channel, I ask that you please subscribe. Support your sister. Support me. I'm brand new to this and I'm just trying to get my feet in the door and get my feet wet and just show up as my most authentic self, something I had never been able to do before. But now I am in my 50s and I already, because of toxicity and the burden of it, have already given so much of it of this short trip away. It's my time now. It's my turn. It is my time, turn, and opportunity to step into the purpose of why I woke up that day. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with that, go check out my other video called "Is Nurse Coach Shell," where I tell you a little bit about some of my life journey um, that has that is, in my opinion, has me sitting here in front of this computer today. And hopefully over time, because I am new at this, I tried to do a YouTube channel some years ago, but it didn't go very well. But I also was still in my toxic space, and I was looking for instant gratification and did not have that long haul ideation with up in here, expecting people to just jump on board as if. You see how that codependency works? Not only did I think that I was, but then lack self-esteem. How does, you know what I'm saying? It was just wild. But anyway, I am healed and whole and happy, and I am looking forward to this channel growing and us fellowshipping together here and building a community that focuses on us becoming the best versions of ourselves, regardless of who or what or where we come from. And I just hope that we can build a community of unity and build each other up, and we just get together and make life the best that it can possibly be because we are the authors. We are it. Make your story great. And that's just the bottom line. Okay. Also, You can follow me on TikTok. I'm not on there very much, just simply because there's about to be major changes. So I decided not to focus so much on TikTok, as I am trying to focus here on YouTube. But I'm also on Substack if you want to catch me over there. I'll put all that information down below for you to check me out. But other than that, heal from your toxicity and get the life you deserve. We all deserve a great life, and we are our own limitations. Believe it or not, we are our own limitations. So let's heal those limiting beliefs. Let's drop all that heavy baggage. Let's get through that toxicity and become great. Not perfect, but great. All right, this is your girl, Nurse Coach Shell. Until next time, peace.